Beck, I'm going to start with you. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. We heard earlier around the cultural piece, and I do like, I mean, Justin mentioned the vibe. I actually quite like the word vibe. I think that's great. Look, I know you run a very large marketing team. You're in a competitive market. How do you set your marketing team up for success? How do you build that culture internally?
Yeah, look, it's a great question to start with, and hi everyone. It's one that I thought game theory and Justin spoke beautifully about to kick us off this morning. The culture and the foundations are so critically important, and I'll spend a little bit of time speaking to each. But if I start with culture, that is the absolute fundamental for any business. And in my CMO role at Domain, the way we talk about this in marketing, and I know I've got some of my team here today, their ears will probably start bleeding. There are two things I talk about when I speak to culture. One is that marketing is a strategic growth driver for the business, full stop. And that is, and we'll go on to talk some more about this, that is marketing's ability to drive the business forward and marketing's ability to demonstrate what that value is to the top and the bottom line. And that's something that we've worked really hard on in the last 2.5 years at Domain. The second piece that we talk about as part of our culture in the marketing team, but also more broadly in the business, is that marketing is a strategic business partner. So don't come to us with the solution of what you want. Actually, come and talk to us about your business problem. And let's start there. And that has fundamentally shifted for us at Domain, not only the profile, the position and the reputation of marketing in the business, but it's given us the gravitas at the boardroom to really start to drive marketing's value in delivering business growth. And as we chat further, I'll share some of those numbers. So that's the cultural piece. What we've done as a marketing team is really start to align and realign ourselves behaviourally, our values, our mindset, to really drive towards that. So we're really challenging the status quo and those old school beliefs of what marketing is. If I touch on the foundational piece as well, it is really setting those foundations for the long term as the springboard for the future success. And I really liked the way that Justin from Game Theory spoke about it. And we've done something very similar at Domain. We've built a very clear strategy, which is centred around our purpose and the goals and the KPIs of the organisation. That's a long-term strategy. We check in on that regularly. The second thing we've done to help deliver that strategy is realign our structures in the organisation. So we've built dedicated centres of excellence, which are really built to turbocharge the delivery of that strategy and the growth to the organisation. And then the third thing that we've done is make sure we've got all the right capabilities in the right places. So in building and accelerating those centres of excellence, how do we make sure we've got all of the best-in-class people with all of the best-in-class skills and agency partners to support and scale that? And then the final piece is around our planning, making sure that we've got the ongoing plans, both short-term and long-term, to make sure that we're delivering. And ultimately, it's the combination of culture and foundations for us that are those true accelerators, really being able to be a strategic business partner for the organisation and have all of those right foundations in place are the absolute accelerator for our business.
Fantastic. And being a public listed company, you'd be kept honest with those plans too. So
oh, yes, we are.
Okay, fantastic. Clare, welcome.
Thank you.
Building on that, I'd love to get your take on, I guess, how we've heard from Will on the short-term pressures, the move towards, really bottom of the funnel activity. How do you keep the culture and that, long-term growth mindset, while we are in this, very short-term economy?
Sure. Well, it is tough, but for us, it's one of the old metrics that we still find really powerful is share of voice. We have seen budgets go sometimes slightly down or slightly up, but often the comparison is just year on year, and we were able to turn things around a couple of years ago by saying, whilst we may have year on year, we're looking all right, we need to see what our competitors are doing, and we found we were a bit short on that. So that was a strong learning for the business. The e-share of voice metric came out and the thinking came out at the time, and we were able to look at that. And we have just begun the Mute Next journey at Lion. I've worked with MMMs in my career over the time, and just being able to show that actually marketing, media advertising, shopper activity can drive business has been really helpful. And one of the things that we look at, which sort of pertains to the discussion that was just happening before with Will, is that while search and any sort of that sort of online or instant metric can show a high ROI, it's obviously cheap. One of the things that we also look at and need to look at is the volume that they provide. So if you're trying to decide, do you just put more and more money into bottom funnel, high ROI channels, you just do need to look at what volume are they all driving, because while a upper funnel channel is obviously a lot more expensive and therefore lower ROI, it will usually be driving a much bigger percentage of your volume, and you've got to account for that as well.
I might stick with you, Claire, if that's okay. So
Yeah.
building on that, so you've started the Mute Next journey,
Yes.
or market mix modelling journey. In terms of setting up frameworks with you and your agency, have you got a clear framework for that marketing effectiveness piece?
Yeah, we do. One of the things also, I read this last night in the game theory piece, and Justin talked about it, and I'm going to go back and discuss it with our company, is the mass of data and how to manage it, and how to have the right people looking at the right data, how to not have the wrong headline suddenly run around the business like on fire. So we have always, we've got media principles, and we use them, but we look at all the metrics. We look at ROI, we look at reach, we look at brand metrics, and we obviously look at sales, although as much as people like to believe, it is not a one-to-one linear relationship, if only it was. So we just continually look at the metrics and continually, that's where the strategy part comes in, look backwards, what were we doing, and did that have an effect? Brand building takes years. Brand rescuing or turning it around takes years. And businesses don't want to wait years for results, but if you can show a line going up even ever so slightly after it constantly going down, people will listen to that.
Great. Bex, so you've managed to get buy-in from the board, the executive level. In terms of you've talked a little bit about your framework, but I'd love to hear a bit more about that. And for all of our, I guess, energy, tools, data, do you think we're actually getting better at measuring marketing ROI?
Yeah, we are. And I'll come to talk some more about that. I think we've come a long way. We've got a long way to go, but I think we're constantly on the way by virtue of the fact that the market's changing, our customer set's changing. There are so many variable factors in the macro and micro environment, so it won't stand still. Hence the reason why I describe it as being constantly on the way. We're always needing to adapt and evolve and flex and change to not only keep up, but to more importantly have the foresight of where things are going. And that's precisely the model that we've built at Domain. If I speak a little bit about the effectiveness framework, I touched on our long-term strategy that we've built at Domain, but what underpins that is a clear set of metrics. And they are really the cornerstone of what we're striving for and the contribution that delivers to the business. We're now at a point where we can determine marketing's contribution to the revenue of the organisation. And that has grown, and I'll provide some numbers on that shortly in a room full of friends, no doubt, and industry media. And what really sits behind those metrics is the data. And if I take a moment to describe our business, we're a digital marketplace. We operate in a really cosy duopoly. On one side of our marketplace, we've got about 7.5 million unique audience visiting every month. We've got on average around 40 million sessions coming to the site. On the other side, we've got about 550,000 properties being sold every year. We've got about 55,000 agents. So it's a really complex ecosystem. And you consider the volume of data points that are coming in. We've got billions of data points coming in. And, you know, I know billion sounds ridiculous, but there's probably about 15 billion that we're dealing with. So there's enormous amounts of data. It's coming in by minute throughout the day. And there's a lot of data to manage. And we've been able to wrangle that through our market mix model. And I'll talk some more to that in a moment. The other key element of our effectiveness, so the strategy, the metrics, the data, what's also really important is the agile planning. And game theory talk about it as the risk and opportunities. For us, it's the ability to pivot, course correct, or accelerate in as close to real time. And we're able to do that, which makes a really dynamic marketing mix model for us. Perhaps it's worthwhile touching a little bit on our market mix model.
Yeah, great.
So we have built a proprietary in-house market mix model. It's a shame Matt Baxter's unwell today because I was looking forward to debating the virtues of an in-house model versus agency. Hi, Will. But certainly for us, the value of having that model internally is that we can move so fast. And it's not just marketing inputs that we have in that model. Yes, we've got all of our owned, earned and paid elements, but we've also extended that to include product, and our product being our web and our app interactions. So it's a really full suite data set that we have. The value of that is that our operational teams can start to galvanise and use that in real time to shift for optimal performance in both the short term and the long term. And a market mix model to me is more than just guiding marketing investment. Actually, that's one great but very small part. The more important part for me is that it's driving optimisation to commercial outcomes. And for us, that's revenue. And so if I share with my friends in this room, what we've been able to deliver through the market mix model is a 25% growth in marketing's contribution to revenue in the last 2 years. And we're even able to quantify the CAGR. So, you know, that has grown 5%. And maybe if I make this interactive, a show of hands in the room, what marketers are talking revenue and CAGR to their C-suite and their board? Because that is the ultimate game for us as marketers. Any hands? Thank you, I've got one. I've got two.
Awesome.
This is where we need to drive as a marketing industry.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Beck. Claire, I think of you as a truth teller. In terms of, you know, Beck's obviously got a lot of internal first-party data points. You know, you're working often sort of removed from the customer, and there have been a lot of changes in signals and data points coming through. We're waiting. I think we're all waiting tomorrow to hear from the government on what's in privacy reform or not. So, has there been a shift with you in terms of data availability, data governance, and how that's possibly impacting any ROI analysis?
Look, not so much for us at the moment because our number one signal needs to be the age gate. And honestly, if that disappears, I don't know what we're going to, but also us and many other companies are going to be able to do. So for us, we have a pretty broad reach attitude, but we definitely don't want to get anyone under 18, and we don't just have the reliability of someone saying they're under 18, for example. There's a lot of other things our digital partners can do for us to ensure that the person hasn't just said it. So that will impact us if they ended up completely getting rid of cookies. But then you've got to go back to the old school type of advertising, which is for us to estimate based on the environment and the content. Is it something that will appeal to an adult? And so then for us, the channels pulling together really good information and data, and for us to be able to do good post-analysis is really important. So I noted the out-of-home increase on ROI. I think out-of-home did the best thing any of the channels have done by creating a better move, by putting together an industry group. Everyone within...
Yeah, Elizabeth McIntyre, you can pay me later.
But the thing about movies, it has all the out-of-home possibilities that you could buy. Everyone's in it. And they stopped the in-channel competition with a lot of help from the media agencies, I will say, and prodding, to start growing, to show what out-of-home can do against other channels. That is what we're really looking for, for all channels, to stop trying to fight for share within television or radio or whatever, and start producing results for us that show that channel is really successful. And I guess if signals go, we will need to look at, if signals go, if cookies go, we'll need to lean on the media channels themselves and the media providers to assure us, and gambling and high-fat, high-sugar companies, that we're not advertising to children, because otherwise we just won't be able to advertise.
Yeah, which is going to be tricky.
It's going to be problematic for everybody.
All right, let's move to something more fun. I guess from your experiments, your new frameworks, playing around with market mix modelling internally or externally, any good or bad surprises that have, then been embedded into how you're doing things, Beck?
Yeah, a really interesting one for us, and I think many of the marketers in the room will relate. We instinctively knew the value of brand to our organisation. What our market mix model has allowed us to do is really quantify the value of brand. And that has been an absolute game changer at the highest levels of our organisation. And what we've been able to do is quantify current demand versus future demand, and really look at the role that brand plays in delivering both. And it does play a role in delivering both over very different time horizons. So what it's been able to do, as I mentioned, is shift from the instinct and the experience that we have as marketers to really be able to quantify that for our new best friends in finance and beyond.
Fantastic. How about you, Claire?
Yeah, so the approach we're taking with our new ROI data is, and this is one I took years ago when I used to work for Procter & Gamble as well, is not about cutting channels, because ultimately we're trying to grow brands as well as grow revenue and grow volume. It's within channels, how can we compare within channel and improve them? And we've just had a couple of really interesting results that in one case it's about durations that speaks against pretty solid wisdom within the advertising world and the media world, and creative agencies are going to love. So that's been really interesting for us. And then also we buy across our brands fairly similarly, but we're seeing really different channel results, which again means looking at some of the creative quality, which also is something that we're going to look at as well, to make some big changes within how we buy channels amongst different products, which isn't traditionally how we have approached media.
Okay, I want to know more, but I won't get you to reveal everything there. Quick fire round, and then we're going to go over to questions. So I'm just trying to make this really basic and get you excited. Your favourite metric, Beck? What's your favourite metric?
Jeez. Only one?
One. You've got to pick one child.
Revenue per dollar spent in marketing.
Fantastic. Claire?
Mine doesn't exist yet, but I hope it will. Cross-channel reach.
Okay. That's a tricky one. All right, least favourite metric.
This is an easy one. Any of the bullshit vanity metrics that exist everywhere. Am I allowed to swear? Thanks for the clap.
Mine's similar. Don't hate me. I like this channel a lot, but a social media like is my least favourite metric.
I think they'd agree with you on that one. That's all right. Favourite measurement technique, and this isn't an ad for Mutinex or in-house things, so favourite measurement technique overall?
Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to go a little bit broader on this one. I think the best is curiosity, actually. You know, I'm going bigger than just the measurement piece. Great. Curiosity and asking why.
Dig deep and wide. Yeah, okay. Claire?
I don't work for Mutinex. I should actually get paid for the panels I do. But I don't work for them, but it's just for us so exciting to see because we have been referred to in years past as the colouring in department to actually see revenue that individual media channels, all like we do, we've looked at sponsorship, what we do in the pubs versus what we do in the bottle shops, to be able to show that that does drive something has really helped turn around our business, both for the marketing department, but for the overall business.
Okay, sticking with your least favourite measurement technique.
Okay, this is controversial. This is why I know why you're asking. Look, I think that when you sit down in an Australian household and watch the big television, we're only measuring a small part of what people are actually consuming with VOZ. Because we're measuring television stations and their output, and I think it has a disproportionate influence within media agencies, given that we're not measuring what people are doing, such as watching all the streamers in the way that we know that they are.
Awesome. And we'll be hearing possibly from OzTam later in the day. Beck?
Least favourite. I'm going to actually go broad again and say anything with a lag time. Anything that's slow to produce because we just move too fast.
Fantastic. All right. Questions from the floor or Slido? JJ?
Yeah, I think what is your favourite measurement metric is the most gay question I've ever heard. There is one question here. What is the one biggest change your media buying recently due to what you're seeing in your marketing return on investments? The one big change to your recent media buying because of your MROI?
So mine is similar to what I answered before in that we have a media buying principle, which is based on Byron Sharp, you know, as mass effective reach as often as possible, continuously. But the channels to drive that have shown to be quite different between two brands that aren't a million miles apart. So we need to now start looking at the types of the way we used each channel and the creative. And I know that doesn't sound like a media buying question, but it is, because we don't change creative every 3 seconds. So we may start moving a channel up into a bigger space than we thought it would normally have because of the effects that we've seen coming out of the ROI.
Ours, surprise, has been shifting up the funnel into brand. We've got a really tight bottom of the funnel model. The value of shifting up and mass reach broadcast TV has been key to that for us.
Thank you. Any questions on the floor? Can I just announce also that the first gift card has been won by Steve from Publicis for that excellent barrage of questions earlier. Hint, hint.
That's the end, Steve. That's the end of the questions for today.
How do conversion APIs affect your marketing mix? So, how do conversion APIs affect your marketing mix?
How do conversion APIs affect our marketing mix?
Yep.
Was the question. Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. We manage as best we can to call out what we're seeing there. But certainly for us in managing the funnel through, we've got a pretty clear view of how we manage in and around some of those aspects.
Look, we don't really, I mean, this comes to we are needing to do a fair bit more work on the data, because the way of Australians consuming alcohol has changed significantly even in 5 years. COVID really hurt the pubs and they haven't come back to where they were. So how people make that decision and convert from being aware of our product to actually choosing it is something we're spending a lot of time deep diving.
Any other questions?
Hi. I actually thought that your question about what your favourite metric was an inspired question. And I actually have a follow-up question to that. Like, there are a lot of bullshit metrics out there. Which one do you think is getting a lot of attention that you just really don't value or see which one's the biggest bullshit, basically?
How long have we got? Okay. Look, in our category, there's one, I mean, we're an eyeballs business, without doubt, getting people to our site. However, it's more than just the quantity that matters to us, and that quantity number is held up a lot in our category. For us, it's much more about the quality and the richness. So I have a much stronger perspective on the quality of that audience, the interactions and the engagement, than just a big fat headline number of 2 legs and a heartbeat, basically.
And Claire, you've said social likes you're not a fan of?
Well, no, because I mean, I know most, but like, what do they mean? Like, now it's apparently, I've got teens, so it's rude to not like something someone's posted, even if you actually don't like it. So what do you... It's meaningless, and chasing them is meaningless. And I also do subscribe a bit to the idea that once you've got a loyalist, you don't need to spend too much time talking to them. We're trying to recruit new users all the time. So while there's a lot of, I think, Reach does a lot of heavy lifting for metrics, and the understanding of it within various marketing departments can be less than ideal. It is still like the opportunity to see, are we providing that at the very least? And then what happens after that's difficult. That's a metric that I do really value.
Brilliant. Thank you both for joining us today. Can everyone...